distinguished guests, and most importantly, the sages and the scriptures of old, which have gravitated us to this place tonight. I'm not an authority on really anything except for myself. And I think that should be true of all of us. So I am a surgeon. I think I was born to be one. I think maybe it's because of my controlling nature in some ways. But I'll talk to you a little bit about surgery. But I'm really going to talk about the surgical approach to life and the influence of Vedic philosophy upon that. And I really want you to think about surgery as a metaphor and not really think about it as a profession, because I think that's very superficial. There's incredible principles and different sayings that I've remembered, maybe from in utero with my grandfather reciting them to my mother, certainly with my father growing up and instilled within me from the standpoint of knowledge, I'd say, in action. There's a Gnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. And maybe for my mother with the compassion of a Bhakti Yogi. So these are very, I think, relatively superficial understandings of some of this deep knowledge, but it's what I know. And it's not just about knowing it, it's about understanding it, experiencing it, most importantly, living it. So don't get too caught up in memorizing things, live it. And I think that's one of the most important lessons to take home on this. With respect to surgery, and I'll just really just speak from the heart on this, it's something that requires clarity, it requires action. There is no fluff in surgery or being a surgeon. That's it. We're on the battlefield. It requires truth, and it requires complete immersion. It requires you. And this is really what the principles of the Vedas really espouse. And so when you really learn about this at any level, and I would really encourage, the youth. I've been in this country my entire life, and yet the greatest truths I really learn are from these incredible scriptures that we have. Learn from the sages that know them, and be relentless about it. It's your world, it's your life. So just to expand a little bit upon that, I will say I am an orthopedic surgeon, so one of my best friends is a neurosurgeon. I'm always having a little competition with him. But orthopedics is directly related to yoga. And I don't know if you understand how, but it's very interesting. So yoga comes from the root word, really means union, right? So we know yoga. But does anybody know where the word religion comes from? It's the Latin root liga, which is ligament, which means to join. So religion really comes from rejoining. It's very much a Vedic term. And yet, over time, it's been crucified by politics, etc., and dogma, but it's very much a Vedic term of yoga and uniting, and it is reuniting, and that's where it comes from. So with orthopedic surgery, that's what I do. In fact, that's what I did all day to do, was fix ACLs and ligament reconstructions and things like that. So it's near and dear to me in many ways. But I really want you to take what I say as a metaphor for life, and especially for the younger folks that want to go into medicine or any profession, take some of this to heart. Some of the greatest teachings do come from this. So one of the most important aspects of surgery is clarity. Clarity and knowledge. You have to be relentless in the pursuit of this. It is about perception. It is about optimizing that perception. And you have to do it at an intense level. And there's certainly, the Vedic philosophers have pointed this out. And in fact, it was Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa who once said that you seek truth like a man whose hair is on fire seeks a pond. And I want you to really remember that image in your head. This is how intense you have to be. Your hair is on fire. And this is the way you should live. You should live extremely hard and relentless. One of the things he was pointing out in my resume was, I do a lot of different things. I have a software company. I'm a surgeon, which is probably my basic element of life. Run some restaurants, do a lot of things, but I don't care about that. I live, and I live hard, and I live and I do what I want to do. So everyone should do that. But do it with clarity, with a search for the truth, and train yourself for that. One of the most important aspects of surgery is training, and that's true in any profession, right? Our training is extremely rigorous. I can remember as a surgical intern taking every other night call. And this is really what you have to do when you're trying to learn the Vedic path as well. And it's very perilous. I mean, it's been said in Kathopanishad, right? That the path to salvation is as narrow as a razor's edge and equally treacherous. And certainly there are times when you could fall off, but you've got to be relentless in your training and you're in pursuit of this. You learn from a lot of different mentors along the way, especially in surgery. And you take something from each of them. And one of the most important basic principles in the Vedantic teaching, right, is you learn from a lot of different gurus. It says what? Sat ekam, right? Ekam sat vipra bahudi vadanti. And so the truth is the same, but the sages speak about it by many different names. And I think that's an extremely important thing to take away. And then you also take away not so much just the technical aspects of the knowledge. What you'll really learn the most from your greatest mentors isn't that technical aspect. What you really learn from them is just their being and their presence. That's one of the most profound things I think that's been passed on to us through our teachings. Is the word Upanishad itself, it means to be near. It is osmosis. Upanishad is osmosis. And you pick that up by being near these people. I can tell you right now, I had the fortune of training with whom I consider the greatest surgeon in the world. And I don't do anything the way he did it. None of the technical aspects do I even remember. But I do remember being with him and just picking up a lot of him within me, and I behave and practice that way. But it's interesting, I think, certainly in all aspects of life, surround yourself, especially those of you that are younger, with mentors, true mentors, in whose presence you simply want to be. And I think that's one of the most important aspects. You have this deep intelligence within yourself. We try to crucify it with knowledge and facts and information, but there is no substitute for that intuition that you have when you know you're with those right individuals. It's interesting. Animals and little children are always attracted to them, so you'll see a lot of these individuals with a lot of kids around them. But that don't ever lose touch with yourself and your intuition on this. I think from the perspective of surgery, especially, it all comes down to the actual operation. And that's true in any profession. You have to do it. It is a mode of action, not of passivity, not of inaction. When we go into the operating room, that's it. My mentors aren't with me, my books aren't with me, nothing else. I have to go. I'm alone in a dark room all by myself, and I'm supremely responsible for whatever takes place. And this is really what it comes down to. That is my battlefield. That is my Kurukshetra, if you will, right? But what do? You get up and you fight, right? One of my most profound passages in the Gita is when Krishna says to Arjun, Hatova prapyase svaragam chitova bhokshashe mahim tasmat uttishta kaunteya vivata duktaya. The most important thing you have to take is no matter what happens, is you have to get up and fight every day. Win or lose, that's basically what takes place. So that is my battlefield, and every day I show up and I fight regardless of what takes place on that. One of the most important aspects of surgery also is outcomes. We are obligated to do a perfect operation from the standpoint of effort. I have to deliver that every single time I go. The pilot has to do that every time he flies the plane, but sometimes the plane goes down. Sometimes the operation doesn't go well. We don't have control over the outcome, but I have complete control over my effort. And that has to be perfect, it has to be optimized every single time, it has to be deliberate. And one of my favorite passages, which is out of the Bhagavad Gita, is Karmanye vadikarashte ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalehetu rubur mate sangostva karmani. You do what you have to do relentlessly, perfectly, deliberate action, optimized. But you have no entitlement to the outcome of that. Then things are as they are, and that's what's going to happen. But I have to every single day show up and I have to do a perfect result. Just from the standpoint of my effort, but again, we're not entitled to the outcome. We're not entitled to expectations. And too often in life, that's the way we're behaving. On one end, you have people that feel they're too entitled. On the other hand, there's individualism. That's not what it's about. We are responsible for perfect effort, and we're responsible for everything around us in that regard. And so at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is you. You have to be responsible for yourself and for your actions. Your mentors, your gurus, your parents, your own body, your experiences. At the end of the day, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Gita, all of those, they point to you somewhere. And they guide you, but at the end of the day, they do what they must. They disappear. And all you're left with is everything, right? Because that is the words of the Adi Shankaracharya. Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupo vibhutvacha sarvatra sarvendriyanam. So every single day, The sages in the scriptures are screaming and yelling at us that all this truth is around us. Bob Dylan said it. It's blowing in the wind. But we run from it. We're drawn to delusions and distractions. But we have to focus on this and stay on these great truths that are with us. Because this entire universe is yours. It is you. And probably one of the most profound sayings in the scriptures is Tattvam Asi. You are that. So be responsible for that and be the surgeon of your life. Thank you.